Hi, hello, how are you? Thanks for stopping by. Today we're just going to have a couple of handsome fellas talking intellectual about what's going on in the weekend. This is the Working Perspectives Podcast, Weekend Poppin'. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied by my best bud, Party Boy Pete McCormick. Party Boy Pete, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good, Bartholomew. I'm ready to get started.
Very good. We have another special guest, our good buddy Stuuuubenz. Steve Cabot's on the show. Stuuuubenz, how you feeling, my man?
Feeling like the weekend is close, buddy. The weekend is close.
Goddamn right. All right, well, this is the Working Perspectives Podcast, Weekend Poppin'. Let's get started. Let's go. All right. Okay. All right. Let's chat. So, Stuuuubenz, we had your interview. We broke into 2 episodes. Part 1 aired last Tuesday. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think?
I mean,
yeah.
Listening to yourself talk sometimes is frustrating.
Yeah, I apparently I have a very feminine voice, which doesn't match my large size. When I first heard it, I'm like, what the hell is going on? People are listening to this thing, like, they're just thinking, like, how many dicks has it caught this weekend?
Dude, Pete, really?
And they probably hear you, Pete, and they think you're 5'7", $130 soaking wet.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. Like, when I first heard my voice, I'm like, well, no one listened to me when I was a bouncer. They just heard my voice, like, yeah, whatever, dick face, get out of here.
Yeah. They're like, all right.
In all fairness, Pete, I have seen you while working, not knowing you were working, and listened to you. I listened to you while extremely inebriated.
Good times. I think I was actually officially. I don't know what you were doing, but the head bouncer saw me talking to you. Like, is that your buddy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, just keep an eye on him. I'm like, all right. So then my whole job was just following Steve around, make sure he didn't do anything.
What was this at McFadden?
This was at McFadden's at the ballpark.
Yes.
Oh my
yes.
God.
And I sadly feel like that's happened to me more than once in my life without me knowing the bouncer. I just get one assigned to me, and I turn around. I'm like, the fuck's.
Yeah.
We're like, sir, we just have to make sure you don't assault any of the other customers.
Then he ends up being like, your buddy after that. You guys talk for, the next 5 years, hang out all the time. You're like, oh, I just met this bouncer one night. He wouldn't leave me alone. Now he's fucking best man at my wedding. I don't know how it happened.
I'm like, listen, buddy, do you see the size of me? Most likely I'm getting beat up. So chill the fuck out. All right.
Hey, man, people don't know. That's the one thing. So I remember talking to someone about this, right? Imagine you're in a bar, right? And you're doing whatever. And you pick a fight with this 5'4" Filipino guy who turns out to be fucking Manny Pacquiao. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, like, you don't fucking know.
There was I do have a similar story. When I was bouncing at 3rd Street, McFadden's at 3rd Street back in the day, there was a fairly famous MMA fighter locally who's not a big guy, he's a lightweight. And one big guy kept talking shit to him, and eventually they're like, all right, you want to go outside? And he said, okay. And he kicked him in the head. And I'm like, well, that's a game changer right there. Like, yes. When a 5'6" guy just kicks you in the head and knocks you out.
Oh, yeah.
It was a music stop, record screech. Like, I'm like, all right.
Well, the legendary tales of Frankie Edgar, he was that guy in Seaside Heights. People would go down the shore. They would go into the bar, see 5'5", 110-pound Frankie and go, I'm going to beat the snot out of this kid. And the bouncers would look at him and go, not Frankie, dude. Like, pick somebody else.
Yeah.
And these guys would go, yeah, no, I'm taking him out. He's like, we'd walk outside. Frankie would kick him one time in the body just to be polite. The person would fold in half and realize, what am I doing? That's a world-class professional fighter.
Wow. Damn. I remember, who was the kid? So I know we're bird walking, but who was the kid? He wrestled at Penn. We wrestled with him in midgets. And I remember seeing him like bouncing one night or something.
Oh, Brett McCurdy?
That's it. He was like a small guy too, but he's one of those, he would destroy somebody,
Yeah, I ran into him. He was like bouncing at the Irish pub, and I'm like, holy shit, like, Brett, you're still like 125 pounder. Now you're manning the door. All right.
Yeah. Hey, they see those ears. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that's what it is. People see the ears. They know right
the
away.
Deal.
They know.
They know the deal.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how big you are. As soon as the people see the ears, they're like, all right, yep, all right, we'll just stay away.
Yep. Get out of here.
That's what should happen. I tell you what, man, I don't know, and also, like, it is to be said, and I think you all would agree, like some of the probably the most badass dudes I know or have ever met are probably the fucking some of the nicest dudes I know too. Probably
So
might be
Rogan's,
like Rich Lotto,
Rogan's
right?
theory, yes. Rogan's like theory too on the whole thing too is that, you know, guys that are in there training and banging all the time, one, not only are they confident in their ability, like, what am I doing? I'm just going to beat some poor ass kid's ass for no reason. Like, better be a real reason. The other thing is they get their aggression out in, you know, the training room. Like they don't need to prove themselves. It's like me. The last thing I want to do when I go out to the bar is hear somebody ask me about their fucking transmission or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like the last thing those guys want to do is get back into fighting. They're like, fuck this noise. Like, I've been doing this for fucking 20 hours a week, dude. Leave me alone.
Oh,
I
dude,
threw 500 dabs today. I threw another
Yes.
200 hooks. Like, I'm not.
Leave me alone, buddy. Leave me the fuck alone.
Plus, too, we're all just trying to talk to chicks. So, like, what the fuck, you know, like.
Exactly. Get out of my way.
The whole reason I'm training all week is so I could go talk to chicks on Friday, you know, like, come on, get it, you know, get it right. Yeah.
I don't need to fucking hug you anymore. I'm hugging enough guys at jiu-jitsu. I don't need you.
How about it, man? That is the truth. But okay, so I'm not gonna lie. Well, I do want to give a shout out to all the dozens and dozens of Working Perspectives podcast listeners to let you know that we have surpassed 2,000 downloads on the podcast platforms.
All right.
We wrote, like, that's not including YouTube. It's just on the podcast platforms. So we surpassed 2,000. They say the first 1,000 is the hardest. So we've only been up for a couple months and we've already passed 2,000. I can't thank everyone enough for all the support and listening. The number one viewed episode still is the Pete McCormick part 1. So anyone wants to try and beat that, that'd be great.
You
depending,
you can do it. You can do it, Steve. I got confidence in you.
Hey, you guys want as long as we can blank names out, so I don't incriminate anyone. You want some story-filled episode? I'll give you some fucking life and times of a wild North Wales kid.
Hey, we should make that a whole new podcast. Right? This is the life. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. But
I can hear the court noise in the background.
I'm not gonna lie though, we did talk about the one. So me and Pete, we recorded an episode last night, and it was fascinating stuff. Really good stuff. We recorded it with he's a professional artist named Rocco DeFinis. Really, really good stuff. But then when I was talking with you, Steve, you mentioned how your ex is a court stenographer. And I'm not going to lie. And I just saw the look on Pete's face. What an intriguing profession. Wow.
The stories that I've heard and witnessed and read through are absolutely, you could make a movie out of every other case because it's Philly too. So, you know, the crime is wild.
Yeah. plus two, man, like not even the crazy crime stories and all that stuff, really just how it works. Cause that's just one of those things like I don't know how many times I've seen a court reporter on TV or whatever. And I'm like, how do they get paid? Like, what are the benefits like? Like where do they have a union? Like all that, you know?
Yep. And do you think they had like a bunch of like anti-recording device posters, like keep tape recorders out of the courtroom? Because like I don't understand why we still have the court stenographer.
So here's their retort. That's exactly what 95% of people say. And the reason why they're still in there is because lawyers, usually defense or prosecution, that are losing or winning a case, when you hear it off of a recording and it puts it down, two things. First, when you hear it on a recording, it's kind of hard to lose context of what was going on. And the other one is you still have to transcribe that. So those guys they're not going to take the raw tape recording and listen to it. Some poor girl still has to take that and transcribe it onto a piece of paper so that they can have a record so that you can send it to reporters. You could send it for them to keep in their filing in case they, have a revision or a appeal. They got to have
that's
that
how they make
down,
money, right?
Yeah. All right, that makes sense. Yeah. As somebody who's been burned using voice to text a couple of times, I realize that technology isn't where it needs to be.
We've all been there.
And then the other thing is when people start talking over each other, you can't decipher it.
You can't hear it. Yeah.
Where she's in there, she raises her hand and says, does anybody want to get this court case right? Because if so, you shut the fuck up while he's talking and vice versa.
Oh, no shit. So she like, or I'm saying she, but the stenographer has that authority. Oh, really?
Really?
So that's one thing they don't do. Like when you see it in movies
on
and
TV.
shit and TV, that it's just some old lady like on the side, click, 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 click. But they're really fucking running the show, right?
Oh,
like, because everybody needs them. When it comes down to it, the records is everything. Wow, that's fascinating. That's fast. Plus, too, like, I mean, it's to be said, like, you could, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's above a lawyer to fucking doctor a tape. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
you have to have an impartial third party.
It's almost expected.
Yeah.
If my lawyer's not doing that for me, then I don't want them.
They're not cheating.
You ain't
they're not
cheating.
trying.
You ain't trying. Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yeah. Nice. Okay.
The lay of the land.
That's it, brother. So, so like we were saying, the Steve Cabot duo part 1 was released last Tuesday. Really did well. Really got some really good feedback on it, man. Steve, can't thank you enough. And that honestly still doesn't scratch the surface. We have part 2 coming out next Tuesday, which is going to be another banger. Can't wait, man. More great stuff. And we really get in depth of one of the best things I love about doing this show is what we get to learn and all the cool stuff. Like, really, when we were talking to Steve, like, you know, obviously I when I ever do anything automotive, I see it from the outsider's point of view and things like that. Getting to see Steve like do his thing and really get like an in-depth look of what life is like in the auto garage and things like that. Really fascinating stuff. Can't wait for people to hear it. But enough of that. I want to get on to something new. On the show right now, I know that I've brought up that I've fought in the cage and I've boxed and all that stuff and everything. But right now, 2 of the guys that are on are basically MMA fascinated historians. You know, they could talk about it all day. So we have 2 major fights coming up. I know in 2 weeks we have Ben Askren versus Jake Paul, which, I mean, say what you want. It is a major fight. It is. Everyone is talking about it. Say what the fuck you want. I know he's a YouTuber and Ben Askren's Ben Askren, but it's Ben Askren's biggest payday, and it's a major fight. Go ahead, Pete.
See, I'm actually nervous about this because I think Jake Paul's going to knock him out. Pete. Yeah, and it's going to make wrestlers look so bad. We're going to look so horrible.
Oh, man.
It's like, dude, you've been training for how long and you still can't throw a punch, and now you're going to go in a punching-only fight, like against a guy that's actually pretty good and pretty athletic? Like, nah.
So here's my take is similar to that. I just watched him on one of my favorite guys, Brendan Schaub. He has Food Truck Diaries. It's they do fighters. He just had
really good show.
Askren on, and Askren was talking about it. He flat out said, he said, look, I'm going to be real honest with you. If this kid can box at a high level, he's going to beat my ass. And he's like, but I'm betting on that not happening. He goes, because I've trained for over a decade to fight some of the most athletic and talented strikers. Remember this. Some of the most Douglas Lima, guys like Robbie Lawler. He's fought in the cage with some of the most incredible knockout artists that the world's ever seen. And besides Jorge Masvidal and that, you know, the knee, he's never been put to sleep. Yeah. So he's like, so this kid with 2 years training, I'm just, you know, again, I'm a betting man. He goes, and I bet that he can't knock me the fuck out. I know that. He goes, so what I'm going to do is I know his conditioning. He's had 2 fights. I hear sparring. We all know, if you know, you know. You can do whatever you want for your cardio, but it's just not the same when pressure's on, lights are on. Yeah. And he goes,
that adrenaline dump.
He said he's probably going to do pretty well. My thought is he'll do pretty well in the first 2 rounds, maybe 3 rounds, and outbox me. And then he's going to start to realize that I press forward and I'm leaning on him. And me and Matt were talking about this. The ref is a big factor of it too.
Big time.
But he wears him down. And then eventually he's going to be in too deep a water. And I've been there a billion times. He's like, he has no idea what the pressure's like with a real athlete. And again, this is where Schaub said, just take out the names and let me run down each's list of accomplishments. Yeah. And there wouldn't even be a question on who's winning this. I don't care if he's boxed for 2 years. The other kid was a fucking Olympian in wrestling, has fought some of the most dangerous humans on the face of the earth, and has never been knocked out besides Jorge.
Yeah. And to be fair, being knocked out by Masvidal isn't really a blemish. You know, like, come on. The guy's a fucking stud. But
he's fighting for a title.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pete.
I think the thing is we've all seen Askren fight multiple times, and he's the guy. He's just going to die for your leg, and if he gets the leg, you can't get him off. I've never seen him throw a combination that looked that put the fear into any of his opponents.
Dude,
I agree.
I'm not gonna lie. I saw pictures of him, or saw a video of him doing hands, like throwing hands. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
It wasn't good.
I hope in my mind, I was like, he's got to be joking. This is
he's trolling. He's a professional.
Yeah,
that's
the only thing. He's like, unless all this stuff is leading up to this, like it's the greatest troll job. He's like 10 years. No one thinks I can throw a punch, so now I can knock out the YouTube guy.
Dude,
the greatest
setup.
Yeah. The greatest commentary between his fights, because it makes for a great fight, because obviously Jake Paul can talk shit, and obviously Askren is the man at it. He was saying the funniest part was when they were talking about you asked Jorge Masvidal about their fight, and he literally says what they were doing right before the fight, which, if people remember, Jorge was laying against the cage all casual with his hands behind his back, and Askren's ready to run out, and he kind of nods at him, and they were like, "What was that about?" And he goes, I looked at him and I went, because he goes, he's all he is a wrestler, so all he wants to do is sniff my crotch. So I looked at him and I said, "You ready to sniff my crotch?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm ready." And I said, "Okay." And I ran out and I need him. "You ready to come sniff my crotch?" That's what he calls a takedown.
Oh, that's so great.
Gotta love Masvidal.
So great. Oh, I love Masvidal. Fucking love him. So
he's a beast.
Dude, I'll tell you one thing though, and I don't care what anyone's saying. These fucking Paul brothers, they got their shit right. You know what I'm saying?
They're like, I don't know if you guys realize this, but they were actually good wrestlers. Like one of them took, I think, 6th place in Ohio States, and the other one was a state qualifier. So like, it's not like they were scrubs, like they
were decent wrestlers for sure. I mean, they wouldn't have made it out of regionals in PA, but in Ohio they can make the states. But no, I was thinking, I remember it was on they wrestled in Ohio and everything like that. And on the Brandon Hill episode, I had brought up the possibility of, I would love to have something like them do a pay-per-view where it's a wrestling meet, where there's an argument between Ohio wrestlers and Pennsylvania wrestlers. Which ones are better? Then we get a team of PA wrestlers, no one that was in the Olympics and maybe could have wrestled like D2, D3 in college, right? But never, like, nothing great. And you get a team of regular PA wrestlers, and he gets a team of regular Ohio wrestlers, and then they have a pay-per-view where it's a wrestling meet pay-per-view. I think that would be awesome. And you could have a ton of people there. But dude, what they're doing, the Paul brothers, what they're doing with selling the pay-per-view fights, these kids are next level. They're next level, And like,
that was the thing. When they got into college, they just started going to the YouTube. Like, I can't remember which one the first one was, but one of them went to YouTube right away, and then the other one followed shortly after, and they've been crushing it on there ever since.
Yeah, I think Logan's the older one, so I think it was him.
Logan's the older one. Okay.
But yeah, no, you're right, and they've both been killing it and doing their thing, and they're major icons for kids their age. Like, I have a kid I train in boxing. Right. And he's big time into, like, he's the one that was telling me about him. Like, I had no idea who the Paul brothers were. And he was telling me about his first fight with the rapper, the British
Nate
guy.
Robin.
The Logan Paul.
KDL or whatever, KSL.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, that Logan Paul was the first one to do the pay-per-view. Then his brother was on the undercard of the first one. And then his brother knocking out Nate Robinson. Forget it. That's that's a highlight reel he can show for the rest of his life. That kid just made his whole career on that, man.
These guys took their lessons from Pride back in the day. The circus fights get all the attention,
Dude, if they're so smart, they're marketing it like WWE. You know what I mean? Like, they have the platform. All they have to do is put out a minute video on TikTok, a 5-minute video of them training on YouTube.
Well, it's like McGregor's the guy in the UFC to kind of realize that, the marketing and all that, because like, there's no way he should have ever been in a ring with Floyd Mayweather, but he sold him off so much that, like, eventually that was Floyd's biggest payday, and probably his easiest payday too. He just walked through him.
This will be, and this was shocking to me when they said it on Brandon Schaub on his show, Food Truck Diaries. Ben Askren flat out said, this is the biggest payday of his career.
Crazy.
About that.
Guy was a world champion over in one championship, which is based out of Singapore.
Yeah.
And you know how Asia fucks with fighting. Like, they fuck with fighting more than almost any culture there is. So for him to be a world champion in Asia, and his biggest payday, fighting guys who would literally kill normal humans.
Yeah.
Now he gets to fight some fucking jabroni wrestler / YouTuber who's been boxing for 2 years, and he gets paid more than he ever has.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unreal. Yeah. Unreal. I mean, that just shows, hey, man, that's the power of the internet, brother. Like,
Power of the people.
Like you've listened.
That was. I mean, the first big name I remember was Kimbo Slice. Like when the UFC was already big, but everyone was like, Kimbo Slice was the biggest guy.
Dude, I bet it was the number one at the time. That was the number one season of The Ultimate Fighter when Kimbo was on there, right?
Yeah. It's like
that was
Randy
Schaub's
Couture,
year
Tito
too.
Ortiz.
That was Schaub's year. Schaub was there. Roy Nelson ended up winning and beating Schaub in the finals. Yeah, I remember that. I remember Pete. We watched that together.
Yeah. Because that was like I'd always liked Roy Nelson. I'd followed him forever, but he never showed KO power until Schaub, and then all of a sudden he KOs over Schaub. I'm like, where was this overhand right the past decade?
Right,
and then he unleashed it.
Schaub tells the funniest story ever about that episode. He tells a story that he was when he was on the team. And he's I told Matt this. He was on the team, or he's getting ready for the final, so it's down to him and Roy Nelson. Or or he's getting ready for a semifinal fight. So there's only 4 guys left. All these other guys got eliminated. And he said that there was the one dude got really, really drunk because they usually, when you people don't know, once you get eliminated, you still stay in the house until it's over. They need training partners, everything else. It's not like you lose, you're out. You lose, you still stay there. So he's like, they're getting hammered because they don't have to worry about fighting. He says the one guy gets blacked out and starts dropping the N-word, right? So a couple guys in there, including Kimbo, were like, yo, we're going to beat the shit out of this dude. So they walk in, and for people that have seen Brendan Schaub, he's all white, but does not look. So he goes, Kimbo walks in. He goes, I'm dead asleep because I have a huge fight the next morning. So I'm like I'm the only one getting rest. He comes in and he bangs on my door and wakes me up and says, Schaub, get up. And I was like, what's up, Kimbo? He goes, we got a problem out here. This dude's fucking shitting on our people. And he goes, shitting on our people. He goes, he's out here throwing the N-word around. We're about to go fuck him up. Let's go get him. And he goes, I very confusingly looked at Kimbo and went, you know, I'm not black, right? And he went, you ain't? And then he goes, and then Schaub goes, when I hear him walking out of the room, I hear him saying to the other guys, that's why I like Schaub. You don't know what the fuck he is.
Dude, Schaub's like I watched a lot of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Good Times growing up, but I don't know if that qualifies me.
Right?
Dude, but Schaub, you look at him, he looks like he's freaking Latino or something.
I think that's what I was a little bit, for sure.
But he's Italian. His mom's English, and his dad's Italian and
English,
German.
His mom. Crazy
like,
combo.
What the fuck? Yeah. So
his brother looks all white. His big brother looks all white.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, he has another great story of Schaub does of his last fight when he fought Travis Brown. It's if you can look it up on YouTube. It's on his what do they call that? His special, his comedy special. Yeah. Really funny. He's hilarious. I love too, like when they talk, and I did want to bring this up. Speaking of like power to the people in the internet, when they bring up like comics, there are tons of comics on The Fighter and the Kid and King and the Sting and all those podcasts. Shout out, love them. But they have a ton of comedians on there, and they're all saying, it's like, dude, back in the day, you worried about getting on the Tonight Show and you worried about Carson and Leno and all that stuff. Now, no one gives a flying fuck. If they all said, like, if they had the choice between the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon or, you know, Jimmy Kimmel or whatever, or going on The Fighter and the Kid, all of them are choosing The Fighter and the Kid because no one's watching the TV. It's all the internet.
Nope.
And it's all podcasts.
It is. Well, I think there was like a trend because it was like TV back in the day, and then Stern was the guy. Stern made all the comedians. Then it was like Opie and Anthony. They made all the comedians, and now it's Rogan and anybody associated with Rogan. Like he's the guy now. That if you're a comedian, you get on that podcast and you're going to make it.
The number one show in the world. Rogan is the number one show in the world.
And they actually laughed at when he says when he goes, because obviously Schaub lives in LA, and he's like, you know, I get a lot of offers in Hollywood and stuff, and then they tell me they're like, hey, we're gonna need you for a week to shoot this in like a movie or something, to shoot the scenes, and here's what you're gonna get paid. And he goes, I look at my agent and I go, I'm not doing my show for this. And they go, yeah, but it's only a podcast. He goes, because these old idiot agents don't realize the money that's paid. He goes, I look over and I go, you see the check you just pushed over here? I make 5 times that in 1 hour on one of my podcasts. I do 3 a day. He's like, get this shit out of my face.
Yeah.
Well, you know who actually got Rogan to take it that seriously? Because originally Rogan was one of those guys who was like, oh, it's just a podcast, and he was doing a spare room.
Tom Green, baby.
It was Adam Carolla. He went on the Adam Carolla show, and Adam had built his own studio. And he's like, "Oh, you're actually
no. You're wrong. Tom Green was the first podcaster that got Rogan into it. Yeah. Watch
really?
Tom Green.
So
Tom Green did one, and he was like literally a show from like I guess it was 15 years ago, and Rogan sitting in there going, "What is this thing called?" And he's going, a podcast. And this is when Tom Green was big, like humping dead mooses and shit. So he's looking around. He's like, wait, you can just say whatever the fuck you want? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, and there's no like oversight. And he goes, literally, that was my inspiration for starting. Now, Adam Carolla helped him take it to another level by kind of giving him some guidance. Yeah. But yeah, he got the idea from Tom Green.
Tom Green got him into it, and then Carolla is the one that like put the professionalism. It's like, look, you don't want to have you don't want the computer at your couch. You want to have a studio. That way, you don't have to rely on subscriptions. You bring in the advertisers, and they're like, oh, this guy's taking it seriously. He has a real shop. We want to work with this guy.
Yeah. Dude, that's fat. I mean, like, could you imagine what the world would be like? Like, I believe the Joe Rogan show makes the world a better place with like his messages and everything he says on there. He's just a fucking man, you know? Like, did you see the Gable? Did you guys see the Dan Gable episode?
Of course.
I did watch. I did listen to the Gable.
God, so good.
And even if it doesn't help change the world, it at least makes me a better person. I swear to God, I feel better after listening to a show. Gives you different perspectives that you're not used to. Yeah. Hence, working perspective. Anyway, gives you a different perspective that, you know, people have a different take on things. And, you know, nowadays in this climate, which is sad, people can't listen to other people and realize, no, like everybody's different. And just because you see something different has zero to do with my respect for you or the way I treat you.
That's the good thing about Rogan. He does from any side of the aisle, whatever he's talking about, he always kind of gets different voices in there. You know, like he doesn't really care. He's like, if you have something interesting to say, he wants to hear it and go back and forth on it.
Shab says all the time that you should see the list of people that he says no to because everybody wants to get on there. And he goes, if you're not interesting to Joe doesn't care if you have, like, he'll bring scientists on that I've never even heard of, anybody's heard of. And people are like, why is he on? And Joe's like, no, he knows something super interesting that I think the world should hear. And he's like, and then they're like, you know, he's like, you look at his DMs or whatever, and you see these A-list actors trying to get on. And Joe's like, yeah, but I don't think you bring anything to the table. So no, like you reject some people that Shab was like, you just shake your head like, Jesus Christ.
He doesn't need it though. He does like, dude, could you imagine, like, when it comes to the actual interview, that is a skill. Howard Stern, as an actual interviewer, he is like almost untouchable as the best, right?
Untouchable. I agree.
When he went to, what did he go? Sirius or XM, right?
Sirius, Sirius XM.
That ruined his shit, man, right? Like, had he not done that, he's still number one. You know,
well, you know what? I think some guys need, like, they won't admit it, but like writers need editors, podcasters and radio guys need producers, because otherwise you just keep thinking, you know what you think, but like, you know, you need that other guy like pushing back and be like, look, you beat this bit to death like over the past week. Let's move on to something else.
Yeah. Agreed. 100% agreed. You do need, it is like a collaborative kind of thing. But I would say, man, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm just thankful that Rogan, I am thankful that he does it. And like the shit he was saying on the Gable episode about cancel culture and like that's the kind of worst people. And
I love that part.
I was so thrilled that he says that.
Gable tried to be all politically correct, and just Dan Gable, who's a great he was like, well, Joe, I feel the same way you do, and I'm happy you're saying it, because Joe's like, no, Dan, that guy that said you used the wrong gender term is an asshole. That's all he is. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit because he thinks he can say something. Yeah, the dude.
He thinks he has a voice because of online and keyboard tough guys now that they feel like, because nobody's ever going up to Dan goddamn Gable and going, you know what? I think you shouldn't use him or her. He's gonna be like, excuse me.
Yeah.
No, what they do is they call it the provost of the University of Iowa and try and get him in trouble. That's the thing.
That's exactly it. What twats?
Yeah, man. Agreed. Perfect word for him. Bunch of fucking twats, man.
And just, Steve, is Jones gonna fight in Ngannou at heavyweight this year, or do you think it's happening? Because that's the fight I've been waiting for forever.
I don't think it's gonna happen because of I right away went hard with the Jones thing after the fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, you know, Jones is there. Blah, blah, blah. Two things. One, people don't realize how big John Jones is and how he barely made 205 his whole career. I'm like, it's not like
just look at his brothers. If he doesn't want to cut weight, he can become
Monster. Yeah.
Well, what he can't become is a Hall of Fame left tackle, but he could become that size. Talk about a family, Hall of Fame, Super Bowl champions as brothers. And then he's the best fighter the world's ever seen. Anyway, he two things. One, he was like, people are worried about, me going up with size and weight and everything else. He's like, you guys do understand that I've beaten the shit out of every guy my size on the planet. So the only thing I train with are heavyweights. And Brendan Schaub was one who trained with him and was like, years ago, before he was like, when he was younger and making 205 easily, he was beating the shit out of me, Shane Carwin, all these team elevation guys out in Colorado that are world level. He's like, it wasn't even close.
I think the Cormier, the Jones, when Jones first beat him, I think because Cormier's kind of old, he got into the game late, but I think that Cormier beats any heavyweight that's ever fought. Because you saw what he did to Stipe in the first match. It's just now he doesn't have the gas tank. So if Jones can beat that guy, he can beat anybody.
I agree. And then
he took that guy down.
Yes, took an Olympian down. He's a fucking Olympian.
Yeah.
He would have been a medalist if he didn't. You heard his thing. He cut too hard. His fucking organs shut down, and he had to pull out of the Olympics.
Jesus.
I think he got a bronze medal at the Worlds of the year before. So he was up there. He was those guys.
Yep. And then the other thing is, I heard him on as funny as this is, I can't believe I'm saying this, on a Steve-O podcast.
Hey, all right, yeah. Steve-O is good, man.
Steve-O was talking to him, and Steve-O, the reason why, I mean, his voice is kind of annoying for me, but I love the fact that he's doing well for himself now, and he's also balls deep into fighting. Like, this kid loves it, right? Yeah. He was laughing, saying how he was going to stay neutral because if Dana hears this, he doesn't want Dana to not let him or pay for him to go to the fights for free anymore. And John was laughing, but John's big thing was, look, when everybody moved up, like when DC went up to heavyweight, when anybody goes up to heavyweight, we're dealing with, like, he goes at 205, you get hit, you get hurt, you get hit in the heavyweight, you die. Like, these guys hit way harder than anything. He's like, so of course your pay scale goes up. And he's like, and this is going to be the biggest fight in the world. I know I'm under contract. There's no way on this planet I'm fighting for what I'm under contract for. There's no way. He goes, there has to be an increase. Yeah. And if there isn't, he goes, I don't care then. I don't care. He's like, do I want to fight? I do. But at this point in my career, and fighting someone as dangerous as Ngannou who can kill a person, you're goddamn right. You're paying me more.
But dude,
you don't think Dana will agree to the higher payday, or I don't think
it'll be the biggest fight,
but I know
it'll be bigger than McGregor Diaz. It'll be bigger than McGregor Aldo. Like, this will be the biggest fight in the UFC in the last 10 years.
And the other thing is, people are sleeping on Jones, thinking that he looked somewhat beatable against Reyes and like his last like two fights. The problem is, like you said, he's fighting guys that he could beat this dude. He beat DC while doing coke 3 days before the fight, the night before the fight with hookers. He beats DC, who's like a Hall of Fame.
He's too successful. That was like, Steve, did you watch the NCAAs this year?
Of course.
That kid from Spencer Lee majors his way through the tournament. Everyone was like, everyone was like, oh, he doesn't look that good. I'm like, yeah, he's that good to where if he's not pinning or teching someone, and someone's like, and there was something wrong with him tore his ACL, but you're like, okay. That's the thing with Jones. Like, he's been so good for so long. When he has a close fight, people are like, oh, he's losing it. You're like, he's not entitled to have a close fight every once in a while.
Yeah. That's the only thing. I really think that obviously the fight's the biggest money one, and Dana loves money, so that does give me a little hope. But he is a petty person. Actually, I say that like I know. From the outside, it seems that way. Who the fuck knows? But he's him and Jones go back and forth, and I think he wants to try to set kind of like an example. Like, no, Jones, you fucked me over before when you were getting in trouble. Like, why do you think I should bend over for you? One of those things.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping.
But he's also a businessman, right? He does, like, this fight is what's
the biggest fight ever.
Business.
The biggest
fight
ever
for business, man. And
but it's a game of chicken. Maybe he thinks that the other guy's going to blink first. He's like, they need the money more than he needs the money, or whatever it is.
And I will say, I was 100% sure that Ngannou has zero chance versus Jones. Zero. Now that I've seen him actually sprawl, and it was a pretty decent sprawl. He had the fucking, he had his shoelaces to the mat, exactly perfect technique, hips in, then also proceeded to spin, get a seatbelt, and then lay some heavy hooks. I was like, oh, he actually has been, because he's been working with Usman.
So I'm like,
you could tell. Yeah, he's been working with Usman, who's obviously a national champion wrestler.
Yeah, that's the thing with Ngannou is you got to get him to the deep water, because that amount of size, that amount of muscle mass, it's always going to
carry.
Yeah, exactly. You can't carry past 3 rounds. That's how you're going to beat him.
I agree.
Yeah, well, but easier said than done. That's for
easier. That's true.
Just like the Jake Paul fight too, which I thought I was very confident that he has no shot on this planet to win. Now, the more I get into it, and the more I watch it, I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm worried.
Either win or lose for Jake Paul and Askren. This fight's a victory just because of the world is talking about a YouTuber versus a retired fighter, right?
Yep.
Like,
it's come a long time from bum fights,
dude.
Yep.
And then like
long way.
Yeah, and you got to think too of like what this does. Like, there's got to be some behind the scenes shit. Like, this must have done leaps and bounds. Like, even for Askren's wife, who gained like 100,000 followers overnight when Jake Paul said she was thick. You know what I'm saying?
Did you see what Jake Paul? So on Jake Paul's, I think it was either his Twitter or Instagram or something like that. One of the two. They were talking about it on Rogan. He literally follows one human, and it's Askren's wife. How funny is that?
See, these kids are fucking hilarious. That's fucking hysterical. Come on. That's fucking hilarious. I love
as
that.
much
That's
as much
great.
as much as people want to hate on those two for where they're at, which obviously like
that's
Shab
always says,
of course, and Shab has seen him and knows him, like personally has a relationship with him, and he's like, oh no, again, people think like, oh, all they do is make video. He goes, no, they're not where they're at by accident. He goes, these kids have a full production team. Like when they do shit, they do it the most professional. Like this isn't, I know it looks like some random act or some random skit. He's like, it's like a movie scene. They have so many professionals around them making sure this shit comes out right. He's like, this is no accident where they're at. Yeah. They do this the right way.
There's a lot of I think, like, because everyone has it in the back of their mind, like, oh, I could do this or I could do that. And then you see somebody actually doing it, but you have to put in the work to do it, and you got to respect it at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Yeah, don't we know it? So all right. So okay. So look, this is great. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Like we said, Steve Cabot Part 1 is available on all podcast platforms and YouTube right now. Steve Cabot Part 2 will be released next Tuesday and available on all podcast platforms and YouTube at Working Perspectives Podcast. Find us on Spotify at The Working Perspectives Podcast. You can join us on Instagram at Working Perspectives Podcast, and you can follow us on the Twitter and the TikTok at Working P Pod. If you'd like to be a guest on the show and go through the approval process with the PAAA, then you can hit us up at workingperspectives@gmail.com. Other than that, party in your pants, Pete. You got anything you want to say to the Pete's before we roll out?
Just get your drink on this weekend, people. This is going to be the craziest summer of our lives.
Goddamn right. Stuuuubenz, what do you got?
I don't know if you two fellas know this, but I'm trying to join the crowd, as you can see, while I'm stuffing my face as we record this like an asshole. It's a thick boy summer. I don't know if you guys heard Brendan Shaw, but it's a thick boy summer. So beef up.
Beef up.
Hey, hey, you don't have to tell us that, brother. I wrestled.
I know. I'm getting there.
Heavyweight, we both had to cut to make weight.
I might have been able to wrestle heavyweight if I didn't suck 4,000 pounds like a complete asshole.
No, that's like I threw my back out again this week, and I told the doctor, and he's like, "So you're still fat?" I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, doc. That's the prognosis."
Hey, what the fuck?
You're like, pussy, you know how much core strength's under? Never mind. What the
fuck? I threw my back out humping your wife.
Yeah.
She's the only person I follow on Instagram.
Oh, you see Pete get pissed off and grab 2 full kegs and throw each one over his shoulder and go up steps with it. You're like, never mind. His back's up.
That should be a story. That should be a segment too. The times I've seen Pete pissed off. It'd only be like 3 segments, but they're fucking hilarious.
It's a scary time.
Oh, it's terrifying. So, all right. So let's do this. Okay. So this has been another Working Perspectives Podcast Weekend Poppin'. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied by Party Boy, Party in Your Pants, Pete McCormick, and our good man Stuuuubenz, Steve Cabot. You can find us on all podcast platforms, YouTube. Oh, you know the gimmick. Stick around for the ad read. Thanks. See ya. Do you have a message or a story inside of you that you've been waiting to tell? Have you always dreamed of writing a book, but are intimidated by the complexities of the book publishing world? Perhaps you want to use a book to launch your public speaking or consulting career. If so, please reach out to Scott and Bell Publishing, located right here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Scott and Bell Publishing handle all genres and authors with all experience levels. Scott and Bell Publishing gives authors 100% creative freedom and a higher royalty split. They can be found at www.skotbell.com. That's www.s as in Sam, K as in Kite, O as in October, T as in Tom, B as in Boy, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.com. That's Scott and Bell Publishing, where the authors go.